r/AskReddit by Reddit tells. Tour guides of Reddit. What is the dumbest question someone asked during a tour? Tourists in Dutch windmills always ask where the engine is. They don't believe the wind can rotate the blades for some reason. This gets asked way too often. Windmills are machines that mill air and turn it into wind, right? Once had a woman insist that she needed to spray herself with my best spray because I could not make her understand that it does not work the same as insect repellent. She decided against taking the tour and called to yell at my boss over my refusal to spray her with best spray. At what point do you just spray her with the best spray? I once worked as a tour guide in Edinburgh. At 1 PM every day the 1 o'clock gun is fired from Edinburgh Castle. I have been asked more times than I can count, what time does the 1 o'clock gun go off? I also loved being asked when Scottish people celebrate New Year's Eve. I thought she was joking, so I said the 25th of July. She wasn't joking. Well, at an American living in the UK I have been asked too many times, when is the 4th of July this year? I think it's because I always have a 4th of July BBQ and a Thanksgiving dinner and they get confused which is which. But it always makes me laugh. It didn't help that the 4th was on a Thursday this year. Guy at Gettysburg saw the cannons pointing straight up as part of a gate/in trance. Asked if they were anti-aircraft guns. Edit. Not a tour guide. You think those Revolutionary War airports were big trouble? The Civil War airports were 10 times as dangerous. But what about the battle at Scroot Farms? Was it the northernmost battle? I'll post for my Scotland tour guide. So a few tours before my group was another group of Americans. This one bunch was quite observant, and we are having a great time, looking at farmland and such. This one lady spots a sheep with a dyed spot of wool, and with all seriousness, she asks, is that the way to tell what color wool the sheep will grow into? Bless the tour lady for her response. Yes, keep an eye out for the tartan sheep. They are lovely this time of year. I was a tour bus driver up in Juneau, Alaska. I did exclusively cruise ship passengers and most of them were older and chose to go on a cruise ship because everything is taken care of for them and they don't need to think, so naturally I got a bunch. The most common ones were, do you guys take American money? What elevation are we at? This was immediately after they got off their ship. Or why is the glacier so dirty? The worst one I ever heard though was, what does clear weather have to do with flying safely? This was after a woman unloaded on me because her helicopter tour got cancelled because of fog and was looking for someone to yell at. I didn't even work for that company. Why is the glacier so dirty? As someone that didn't see a glacier in person until my 30s, my mental image of glaciers was informed solely by stock photos of perfectly clear glaciers and by bottled water campaigns that tout their crystal clear glacial stream sources. So it really never occurred to me that dirt exists everywhere and would get trapped in the ice as part of the melting/freezing process. Not a tour guide, but my mom told me about a tour she had gone on in Central/South America. I don't remember exactly where. They were touring some ancient sites. The tour guide said that the people who used to live there had come from distances as far away as modern day Utah. One woman asked, oh, were they Mormon? The tour guide was apparently flabbergasted and eventually went up, no. Not a tour guide, but I was in a tour one time, part of a school trip to the Pickering nuclear power plant. Before we went there were girls in our class who absolutely refused to believe that the point of a nuclear reactor was to boil water. That's stupid. You can plug a kettle into boil water. That doesn't make electricity. After the whole tour of the steam generator, turbines, and generator room, the tour guide asked, any questions? And one of the girls asked, so how does that make electricity? And it was literally like that scene from Zoolander. But why male models? Seriously? I just explained it all. It's funny how boiling water in a kettle is actually a real good description of how nuclear power work. Taking people on a snorkeling tour, explaining the wetsuit. Wait, we are gonna get wet on this tour? Nah, just the suit, it absorbs the wet and protects you. I work at the Boston Tea Party Ships and Museum, giving tours, playing Sam Adams and John Hancock, etc. Immediately following the tour, which wraps up with a movie about the Battle of Lexington and Concord, a guest turned to me and asked, so who won? Great question. so the regulars suffered more casualties, but were ultimately successful in finding No, I mean the war. America. She was from the Midwest. Not a tour guide, but I was on a tour of Europe with my first wife and her mother. I believe we were in France and Mill was pissed that stores wouldn't take her dollars. Few places, large department stores, would do a dollar exchange at the cash register, meaning that if she was buying a €30 something and the exchange rate was €30 equals $50, trying to make the math easy, they would take her $100 bill, convert it on the spot to the equivalent in euros, in this case €60, give her the purse, and then the change of €30. She was pissed, thought she was going to be ripped off, and wanted to call the police, the US consulate an US 911, I shit you not. She wanted to pay in US dollars and get change in US dollars. The best part of the story, in the US she worked in retails in a department store, masses, so I asked her, when French people come into your store, would you take their euros? Her reply, why should I? That's America, we are American. We use dollars. Why can't they learn to use dollars just like they learned our language? She was dead serious. Yes, she was not that bright. Not a tour, but worked at fish and chips place on Seattle waterfront swarming with tourists. How many pieces of fish in the 3-piece fish and chips? Me, since it's Tuesday, we do 3. Feels elbow bump from manager. Edit. Thank you kind stranger for my first silver. It could be 1 fish and 2 chips. Used to give tours of a historic wooden grain elevator and farm buildings from the early 1900s. Had a guest ask, isn't it amazing how much healthier everyone was back then, before we had all these chemicals? At the time, we were standing next to a machine that was used to coat grain with formaldehyde to make it last longer. Oh god, I miss the good old days when everyone died of polio, worker safety and child labor laws were non-existent, asbestos, lead, and arsenic were in literally everything, and grain elevators were consistent fire traps that occasionally exploded and blew everyone inside to kingdom come. Yes, we all lived so much longer back then. I was a park ranger working at the information desk. A woman approached me to get a map. While we were talking, a bell started ringing. She asked about the bell, and I told her it was in the clock tower, and that it rang out the time every hour on the hour. She asked how many times it would toll, so I looked at my watch and said 12. She then said, 12? Why 12? What's the significance? I said, it's noon. It's high noon. I'm quite fond of all the people who sincerely believe that Disney World actually has a giant retractable dome that they can put up whenever it rains. Like seriously, the place is the size of a small city. Building a dome that size would be legit be one of the wonders of the modern world, and they think Mickey just happens to have one lying around just so nobody gets their hair damp. People also think that Cinderella's castle gets disassembled anytime there's a major storm, because reasons, I guess. Back in the 80s I worked there in security. It usually rains in the summer in Florida and many times around the same time of day. I was on my way to the other side of the park, and it began to rain. I stepped in the breezeway of the castle. Just about that time a man and his family also ran for cover. As we stood there the man turned to me and asked when the rain was going to stop. I had to keep myself from laughing. Dude, the rain is real. Thanks for watching. Please like if you enjoyed the video. Comment with your own personal tour guide stories. Subscribe to the channel for more.